we went over lowering the stakes with our goals and really allowing ourselves to take the pressure off. And today, we're going to pull from your worksheet. And if you wrote notes on a piece of paper, that's great too. So grab paper and pen, because we are going to be journaling and writing some stuff down again. Or if you have the workbook, that's great too. The workbook is in the file section of the Facebook group, and Jenny can also drop it in the comments, and you can just get the direct link to download that workbook. So what we're going to do is pull from that column on the right-hand side of your workbook from yesterday that said objections and clues, and that's going to be our starting point for today, which is going to be really fun, because we're going to identify our limiting beliefs, unblock them, and then at the end, we're going to work on an implementation plan to make sure that we're really set up for success for tomorrow, which is day 3 of this challenge. Where we're going to start. I just want you to feel for one day what it feels like to start your creative practice or personal project. If you want to keep going with it, amazing. I would love that. But take the pressure off and just say, okay, all I have to do is start for one day, and then Leanne will be happy. That's all I'm asking from you. So that will allow you to be like, oh, am I supposed to pick this thing or that thing? Don't worry about it. Just pick something, because this challenge is bringing you through this mental work that you can repeat for another creative practice or another project. So I'm just getting you into this habit of saying like, okay, there's a little bit of like rigmarole that has to happen before I start something. That's what this is all about. And making that normal, like allow that to be like, yeah, you know what, this is what's going to happen every time, and that's okay. That is what being a creative is all about. We've got to get ready before that big take action moment. And a lot of, gurus out there will say like, oh, just take action. And it's like, okay, yes, I love the sentiment of that, but there's a step that happens before, and that's what we're doing in this challenge, is really working through what's in our head so that we can clear it all out to just be free with what we're doing. So I'm so glad you're here. Grab paper and pen, grab the workbook. And what I'm going to do is go through a limiting belief kind of presentation for you. And I want you again to take note of any objections that come up while I go through this, because it's again going to give you clues that you might not have thought about earlier. And what I want you to do is take your workbook out. The first part, it says collect any objections or clues from day 1. Go ahead and write those down now. Like anything that you thought of while I was sharing my story yesterday, just write them down either on a piece of paper, or if you already have them written down from yesterday, just have them present, because we're going to build on that. So I'm going to share my screen here so that you can see this thought process behind a limiting belief. I'm going to explain what that is. Before I do, for anyone that is struggling with picking an idea, this is one of my drawings, and I love this one because it's all about just following your intuition. So if you're struggling to pick something for your creative practice or personal project to start for tomorrow, just remember, like, it really doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what you pick. It really doesn't. And I know the artist in us says like, but it does matter because I wanted to start this business, or I wanted to make this book, or I wanted to do this and that. But if your intuition is telling you something different, just follow that, because you might be meant to take the long and twisty, windy road, because there might be something that you're supposed to pick up along the way that's going to lead to the same place. It's going to take you to the same place, whether you go straight there or around the corner. So really remember that it's okay to just do something that maybe doesn't make any sense. And you're just kind of thinking, geez, my intuition keeps telling me to do this, but I don't see how this relates to like the children's book, or I don't really see how this relates to the music album. Like whatever that is, just trust that and follow it and see where it takes you, because I really do believe it's going to take you to the same place. Whereas if you had like forced it, and it's going to be a lot more fun if you follow your intuition, because you're going to do the easy, natural thing that feels good. So just keep that in mind. So I want to share this thought process. So yesterday I shared, when I was first getting back into my creative work, I wanted to paint, and I did. I started painting with those little canvas pad papers. And the reason I started painting is because I wanted to start a painting career. I had in my head, I was like, yeah, I'm going to make these paintings and I'm going to get into galleries. So to get myself excited, I started researching people that were able to sell their paintings through Instagram, because I realized like, okay, well, I'm going to have these kids and it's going to be hard to sell my work to galleries because I'm not going to be able to like go around physically to do this. So I was like, I'll just sell my paintings through Instagram. And I found this woman, Ashley Longshore. And for whatever reason, I just became obsessed with her. She's a really fun personality. She also lives in New Orleans, and I lived there for a couple of years, so I think I resonated with that. But I saw this article where she said she was making between $6,000 and $40,000 off of paintings that she was selling through Instagram, and that got me really excited. There are probably a lot more now, and I saw her work, and I was like, okay, like I could do this style. So what was happening in my subconscious brain was really connecting to this painter who had the same technical capability as me. She had the same technical skill. I could make a painting like this. Now for you, you might be sitting there and being like, oh, I'm not there yet. So when I go further into this presentation, I'm going to ask you to find someone that has the technical ability to you. But for me, I had this technical skill. I could make an acrylic painting like that. So I was like, wow, that's really exciting. And I started to research her, and I was like, oh my gosh, I could totally do this. And I saw her paintings. I'm like, there's nothing super complicated going on with these paintings. Like I could totally do this. So it was making it seem possible for me. And I was really just absorbing this woman and her path. And I was listening to podcasts and reading articles, and she is very much a personality, and that's part of her brand. And why she's able to charge so much money is because she really has created this personal brand. And that's why people love her. She's also very prolific. She makes a lot of work. So there's a reason like behind it. It's not like she's just randomly, selling $40,000 paintings off the internet. She has this kind of pop art style. She's been likened to, oh my gosh, who's the artist that does who did the soup cans? I'm like blanking. You know what I mean? The famous pop artist, because she does kind of variations of the same thing, and she makes a lot of paintings just like with different backgrounds or different outfits. And I was like, wow, this is so cool. But I kept coming up against this same thought that kept creeping up in my inner critic or my, subconscious mind. I kept saying to myself, well, yeah, of course, Ashley Longshore can have this famous, oh, Andy Warhol, thank you, Jenny, can have this famous, successful, lucrative art career because she doesn't have kids. I kept saying that, it kept coming through my brain. It kept saying like, well, yeah, because she doesn't have kids. That's why she's able to do it. And that's what I want you to think about based on those objections, because that's not true, right? There's plenty of people that have kids and have a successful art career. But for me personally, with whatever background and conditioning and way that I grew up, that's what is in my head. That is a story that is looping in my brain, and that continues to loop in my brain, that I'm constantly trying to maintain and tell myself that does not have to be true. So to identify a limiting belief for you, it might not be kids. It might be like, oh, well, of course that person can be a successful writer because they don't have this chronic illness. Or of course that person can be a successful painter because they have money. Like whatever that thing is that you keep bumping up against, that's what I want you to identify and write in your workbook. And if you don't have your workbook, just get a scrap piece of paper and write this phrase. Well, of course they can blank because blank. So think of someone you admire, like related to your creative practice or project. Maybe somebody who's a couple steps ahead of you, who's done the thing that you want to do, or someone who's way ahead of you, like a celebrity or an influencer on social media. It could be a family member, a friend, a coworker. It could be someone you went to school with. Think about someone that you admire where you're just like, oh man, I wish I could have that life. Like for me, it was Ashley Longshore. I was like, wow, I wish I could make these paintings and get them into, sell them through Instagram and make all this money. Like I have this skill level that she does. Like I can do this. So pick someone that, and you might need to do some research. I'm going to cover that later. But think about, based on the objections that you had yesterday and any inner critic thoughts that you've had during this challenge, what is this sentence for you? Well, of course they can blank because blank. And for me, it's every single time. Well, of course, Ashley Longshore can have a successful art career because she doesn't have kids. That is always number one, my limiting belief. So now that you have that, and I don't have the comments open because it's hard to balance between here, but type a 1 in the chat if what I'm saying makes sense. Now that you have that, you're going to turn it into your limiting belief statement. And this is going to be super depressing, but don't worry, it gets better. So you're going to switch, well, of course they can, with I can't. So the first part of this sentence becomes, I can't have a successful art career. So it used to be, well, of course, she could have this successful art career. It becomes, I can't have a successful art career. So write that down. And then the because is the same, because I have kids. So your limiting belief statement, when you put those pieces together, becomes, I can't blank because blank. So I can't have a successful art career because I have kids. And you're going to be like, oh my gosh, Leanne, why are you making me do this? This is so depressing. But I promise this is like the key. This is what is going to get you to the place that needs to unblock this. So type a 1 in the chat if you are getting this in the comments. Do you have your limiting belief statement? Do you have that thing like, well, of course, she can become a famous singer because she has connections, or of course she can, publish her novel because she doesn't have to care for her aging mother who has Alzheimer's. Like, make it specific too, whatever that is. Okay, I'm seeing some 1s in the comments, good. What is that? And it becomes, well, I can't become a successful singer because I don't have connections, or I can't publish my novel because, whatever that is for you, you have your statement. And now what you're going to do is flip that on its head and think of the opposite, and think in terms of a news headline. So you want to find evidence to prove this statement does not have to be true. This does not have to be your truth. This does not have to be your story, because there's going to be enough evidence of, yes, there is going to be a group of people who don't have the career that the art career because they have kids, but there's going to be just as many people who do have the successful art career with kids. So it's like, which one do you want to pick? Are you going to choose the one that keeps you stuck and paralyzed? Or are you going to choose the one that's going to show you like, look, you can do this? So what you want to do is find evidence to prove your limiting belief statement wrong. So, and I did this and it was so helpful. So you're going to search for a news headline like successful artist mothers, or painter finds success while raising young children, or just keywords like artist mother. And what you're going to do is you're going to start finding articles. All these things are going to pop up. And here's what came up for me, like this article, you can be a mother and still be a successful artist. Like, how perfect is that? I found a whole podcast called Artist Mother with hundreds of stories of people that were proving my limiting belief wrong. It was so expansive to hear this podcast, to hear mother after mother after mother telling their story about how they were managing their painting or whatever they were making while they had young kids like running around and everything was chaos. I was like, wow, they are making it happen. And it wasn't until I found this woman. There's going to be one person that you really identify with, and this is going to be your person. They're in the manifestation practice. There's this woman, Lacey Phillips, and Jenny can drop this in the comments. She has this business called To Be Magnetic, and she talks about these people as expanders. That's what she calls them. So they're like expanding your subconscious mind to show you what is possible for yourself, because a lot of times this is like layers in the background. So when I found this woman, Sari Shryack, I heard this podcast. It's called Training Like an Athlete with Sari Shryack. She was talking about how she started this drawing a day, which became a painting a day. She started with watercolor paintings in like 2016 while her son was 2 months old. And I was like, wow, if she could do that, then I could do it. Now, this is her 2016, the I Miss You Eggs pen drawing. And this is where she's at now. These like gorgeous paintings. This is current. Now, in the course from 2016 to now, so however many years that is, somebody do the math and help me out. She jumped from pen and ink drawing of eggs to this gorgeous acrylic still life. Like, that's crazy, right? How many years? That's 7 years. Okay. And she just kept showing up. And, you know, she told us in the podcast to scroll back on her Instagram, and her Instagram is Not Sorry Art. And I did. I went all the way back, and there was a lot of scrolling to do, but I found her very first posts, and they were all like this. They were just her showing up every day and doing a little doodle in pen on paper and taking a picture of it. And eventually she started doing watercolor paintings. And she said when she started these watercolor paintings, that's when she started to really challenge herself to try and do it every single day. This is the 2016 where it started. And you can see, like, she didn't have a fancy studio. She had a young baby and her watercolor set. And she was like, I'm just going to paint what I can when I can on the floor. Like, we're not being fancy here. And in her Instagram, you can just see this growth from these drawings, and it just kept getting better and better. And eventually you see she brings out her acrylic paints. Like, she got the courage to like step it up a notch. She's still on the floor. You know, she's got this little setup that she takes out. She's taped this little palette. It's like on wax paper. And she's just showing up. She's showing up. And here she is. She's like also beautiful. And then she's like, okay, now I have the courage to go bigger. Now she doesn't have a fancy easel and studio space. This is like a corner of her apartment. She hung up a sheet, hung up a canvas, and she's just finding the time to chip away at this. And when I heard this story, I just connected so much. And in just a few short years, now she's got a studio and she's exhibiting in galleries. She has created an art school. She does retreats. You know, this is 7 years. Like, to some, that seems like a long time, but that's actually not a long time. And in those 7 years, what a thrill to feel like you're doing something for your creative self every day. Like, even if it's just this, like, does that not just hit you? And it did. And that's what happened to me when I started doing my drawings every day for Epic Bones. I was, in the midst of caring for my 6-month-old son. I was exclusively breastfeeding. So I was up, at night every 2 hours. I was exhausted. I was changing diapers and managing my kindergartner in virtual school because we were in the middle of COVID. And I was so physically tired, but because I was doing these drawings every day for Epic Bones, I was so energized. Like, it gave me life to do these drawings, and they were so simple and they were very similar to this. Like, they were just pen and ink, but they were in Procreate, And that's what I'm trying to say. It's like, let it build, let it be. And, however long it takes, at a glance, 7 years seems like a long time, but 7 years goes by quickly. And wouldn't you not want to show up every day and just feel that life inside of you and let it slowly evolve? And when I heard that story, it just really broke my brain. So that's what these expanders can do for you. And then when I was switching from painting to like, okay, I need something that's a little less less setup induced. Just for me personally, that seemed overwhelming, and everyone's blocks are going to be different. I just shared yesterday, that's when I found Liana Fink. And I saw her very simple drawings, and they also, just like what she draws so resonates with me, because also she has a child. And I loved her like scribbly faces, and it was just like so fast and so simple. And this gave me the permission to do my Epic Bones drawings. I'm like, okay, like this is enough. Like I shared yesterday. And I loved how sometimes she would just take a picture of her drawing. Like, she didn't care if it was like nicely cleaned up and contrast looked good. She just take a picture. It's like, this is what I drew today. Like, deal with it, Instagram. This is what I drew, because it's not for you. It's for me. And people resonate with that. They want to see what you're doing, and it's not for them. And it's so funny because it's so ironic. Like, when you do something not for someone else, that's when it's the most magnetic. That's when people just can't get enough, because they want to be in on that secret, that vibe that it's like pulsing through you. It's so honest. And yeah, so I found all these expanders. And also, I remember from childhood, remember the Life is Good, like this was so hot. Type in the comments if you remember, like, going on vacation or being in a tourist town, and like these Life is Good t-shirts were like literally in every gift shop imaginable. Maybe this is just a New England thing, I don't know. But this is $100 million company. Okay. And I remember this was another piece. I was like, geez, this is so simple. Like, it's not enough. When I was doing my Epic Bones, these like black and white drawings, and I looked up this company. I was like, I bet they're making a ton of money. And it's just like these little stick figures. And I was right. I found this article about them. And that's when I was like, all right, it really just doesn't matter, you guys. Like, it just doesn't matter. Just do what you want to do, because literally anything can be successful. Anything can take off. And it's like, it's not even about that. It's just about us showing up and being our authentic selves, and like just letting the work move through us. We are just the vehicle. Like, it's just going to come through our hands when we can connect with that flow state place. And when we make it easy and we lower the stakes, and it just we can relax. We can relax into the creation. Like that's when it's just so us, and it just builds. If you can get that consistency, it just like grows and grows and grows. So that's what I'm challenging you to do today is, and you don't have to do it now because it might take some time to research. Go through that limiting belief exercise and try and find your expanders. Like ask yourself, who do I need to see to prove this limiting belief statement wrong? Like who do I need to find? Do I need to find a painter who like has like 5 kids? Do I need to find a writer who like went blind in the middle of her career? Do I need to find, whoever it is? Like there are so many people in this world. I promise you there's going to be someone with your exact life circumstances, your exact limitations, your exact, obstacles that you're overcoming. There's going to be someone just like you who did it, who did the thing that you want to do, who wrote the book, who made the painting series, who did the music album, whatever it is. Like there's going to be someone. And sometimes if you can't find them through that Google search exercise, like I said, like pretend it's a news headline sometimes. And like this is where like the woo woo comes out in me, and like if you're not into that, like don't worry. But kind of like ask the universe, like I just really need to find someone that's like this. And I do this sometimes. I'm like, can you just show me someone that can explain Facebook ads to me in a way that makes sense? Like I literally asked that a couple months ago of the universe. I was like, I can't understand that. I need you to send me someone that can explain this to me. And it was like literally a couple weeks later, I saw this ad for this guy who like, there was just something about his face. I was like, I bet this guy can teach me. And he had like a free boot camp, and I took it, and then I joined his membership and like all the things. So sometimes it can be that, like just literally asking the universe to send you the expander that's going to show you that your limiting belief statement doesn't have to be your truth. It doesn't have to be your story. And when you listen to the podcast and read the articles and really like kind of obsess over this person, it becomes your story. Like I became Sari Shryack. I was like, yes, I can do this. She did it. I can do this. So it's kind of like giving yourself that permission too, to be like, if they can do it, I can do this too. So that's what you're going to do. You're going to collect all these articles and podcasts and YouTube videos or whatever you find about your expander, and kind of like affirm your future self and say like, well, if Sari Shryack could build a successful painting career, then I can too. Or if Liana Fink can, make a successful career, like drawing for the New Yorker and have her illustration business and publish all these books, then I could too. Why couldn't I? My style is just as good as hers. Like I don't need any new technical ability. Like why couldn't I do it? Why couldn't I do it? So that's what you're asking yourself, like, why couldn't I do it? And it's so great when you can find an expander who doesn't have more technical skill than you, or doesn't have anything extra. It's like literally you, like you can do this right now without learning anything new or having anything new. It's like, it's you right now. Like all you have to do is take that leap. That's when it's really, really helpful, because you're like, okay, well, there's literally nothing standing in the way here. Like I can make those drawings right now. I don't have to learn anything. And it's also helpful when you can really identify with the person, like maybe their gender or their age or their cultural upbringing, or if there's like something about them that you're like, wow, I really resonate with this person. That also like subconsciously helps show yourself like, this is you in the future. Like you can do this. This person is so similar to you. It's just asking you to like, it's reaching a hand out to you to just say, all you have to do is walk forward. So really do that. Take some time and do that exercise and search for your expanders. It's so, so helpful. So type in the comments if you have some thoughts already of, what that limiting statement might be for you. And what is the type of person that you need to find? You don't need to say who it is yet because you're going to need to do some research, but who are you looking for? Like, who do you need to see? What type of person? Let us know in the comments. It's fun to share that. So now I want to switch gears and talk about logistics. So we've done a lot of mindset work to be like, okay, like, yes, I can do this. I've lowered the stakes. I'm finding my expanders. I believe this is possible. Now we want to prepare. We want to make sure that we're really set up for success to start tomorrow. Now, some of you may or may not know, for my personal project, I am making a new card deck. So I have this program called 100 Epic Days, and I'm going to share with you tomorrow. And the last round, which was in, I guess, oh my gosh, was it like summer, fall? I made a drawing a day about money. Every day I drew about money, and you can see in my Instagram, if you scroll, I'm at epic_bones. You can see my drawings. Every day I drew about money, but it was on paper. So now for this next round of 100 Epic Days, I'm going to be just tracing those drawings in Procreate. That's all I have to do. I just have to take a picture or like bring that, little sketch that I did into Procreate, make a new layer and trace over it with my one tool, the inking technical pen, because I don't know how to use any of the other tools. And I made that rule for myself to make it easy. When I started this whole journey, it's like, I'm not going to learn all the things in Procreate because that's overwhelming. I'm going to pick one tool. And for this entire time, with an online shop using one tool in Procreate, the technical inking pen. So like, don't overwhelm yourself with all this stuff. Just like, let it be easy. So anyway, I want you to think about, what do you need to do to prepare to start? Because tomorrow I'm going to start live in front of all of you. I'm going to turn the camera on myself. I'm going to have my iPad, and I am going to trace my first drawing for my card deck in front of all of you tomorrow. That's going to be my epic start. Now, tomorrow you do not have to do your start live. All you have to do is type in the homework like, hey, I started my thing, and you can take a picture if you want. But tomorrow I'm going to be starting live in front of you, and it's going to be really fun. So I'm in this with you. Every time I start a project or every time I pick something back up, because in my personal practice, I like to work in cycles. So I do like one big push on a project and then I take a break. And I very much have noticed in my life, I like to work in seasons. So I like the summer off and I like the holiday time off. So I don't work during that time. And that's what the 100 Epic Days does. It follows my working season life. So the next season starts in February. This is when I feel inspired to work. So I've had December and January off. I have not created. And then February, March, April, May, into a little bit of June, I work on my work, and then I like to take the summer off. So I have July and it's like June and July off. And then by August, I'm kind of like itching to do something again. So it goes in these cycles, and that might happen for you. You might have been doing that subconsciously, not even realizing it. So I'm going to start inking those cards, and I'm making it easy for myself by not putting the pressure on myself to complete a drawing every day. And that's what I did in the past. And it got a little like stressful. So this time around, I'm just going to do what I can in 20 minutes. Sometimes I might get the whole drawing done. Great. Sometimes I might not. But my goal is just to draw every day in Procreate on that specific project. So I'm going to start that tomorrow in front of all of you. So to get ready for me, I need to make sure my iPad is charged. I need to make sure my Apple Pencil is charged. I want to clear my drawing table because my husband has been set up working on there. I'm like looking over because it's in the corner of my room here. He's got all this stuff on there. I need to clear that table and have a conversation that I'm starting my next project and like this table is off limits now. So for you, like, what do you have to do to get ready? Do you need to like go to the store and buy something? Do you need to find some materials? Do you need to clear a space or set up a new table? Sometimes that's nice to like, if you have a little folding table, like set that up as your new workstation for this specific project and be like, this is my journaling table, like nothing else. Sometimes that can be helpful as like a cue to be like, okay, that's where I do that thing. So think about in terms of material, space, anything that you need to do to set yourself up to get started. And if it starts to feel overwhelming, if it starts to feel like, oh, geez, this is a lot. If it starts to feel like, oh my gosh, I don't have the money to buy these supplies, or oh my gosh, I don't feel like going to the store. I want you to take a minute and pause and say, okay, I'm going to lower the stakes even more. I'm going to simplify this project even more just to get started. I promise you, you can buy the materials and stuff later, but if it starts to feel overwhelming, I want you to simplify even more and think about what can I do to start right now? Maybe it's just taking a scrap piece of paper and doodling just for tomorrow. I want you to start tomorrow. I want you to feel like, okay, I get it. I did the easy thing. So take stock of that. If you're starting to feel like panicky or anything like that, simplify it even more just for the first like entry ramp. Like I said, those first couple days of just easing into it. So keep an eye on that. If you're thinking about preparing and it's starting to feel a little wobbly, that's a sign. That's a flag that like, okay, we need to step it down even more, and that's okay. You're not failing. There's nothing wrong with you. Like, give yourself that grace. You know, we're so hard on ourselves. Give yourself that grace to simplify it even more. And then in terms of logistics, there's this great author, James Clear. He wrote this book, Atomic Habits, which I highly recommend. It's on audiobook as well, because I can't sit down and read books right now with like the little kids, but I love to listen to audiobooks because I can listen to it while I'm like washing dishes or doing the laundry or whatever. He has this book, Atomic Habits, and there was this study done with exercise where they had 3 groups, and they split these people who were looking to exercise into 3 groups. And there was a control group. There was where they didn't do anything with these people. There was a group where they had doctors give a presentation about cardiovascular health and how exercising is good for you. And they kind of like were like, you know, taught about health. And then the third group, they got that same presentation from the doctors, but they were also given this exercise to create an implementation plan. And they had this whole little like worksheet. It was like, wanted them to really think out, okay, when in the day are you going to exercise? Where are you going to do it? And how? And the third group that made that implementation plan was like wildly more adherent to their exercise program. I forget the percentage, but it was like insane compared to the other groups. So there really is some science to this of making a very logistical, tactical plan. Now, it's okay for the plan to change. It's okay, like some days are going to be different than others, but make a plan based on like, okay, like usually it's going to be like this, and be open to it changing too. You might learn like, oh, wow, I really thought mornings were going to be better, but it turns out the evenings are better. But just to start, make a plan. So you're going to see in your workbook, there's a section for plan out the logistics. So you want to think about like, when are you going to do this creative act? Is it in the morning? Is it in the evening? And then think about like very specifically when, you know, not in terms of time, but in terms of like what happens during your day. So for me personally, I have like a very specific evening routine because I have young children. So it's like we have dinner, We get everyone like cleaned up and in their PJs. My husband and I get our 2 kids to bed. And then one of us will like clean up the kitchen, and we kind of alternate days. And then we like check in like, okay, what are you gonna do in this like last 45 minutes that we have basically until we go to bed? So, you know, I might say like, okay, after I put the kids to bed on my free day, that's when I'm going to do my, you know, digital inking and Procreate of my money mindset cards. Or it could be in the morning, like, okay, after my coffee or right before I open my email for work, like get really specific for you. Like, when is this creative act going to happen? And make a plan for that. Like, really think that through, like what's going to be best for you, and get specific. And then get specific with where you're going to do it. Really think that through. You know, am I going to clear a little section on my desk and it's going to be on this like left-hand side? Like that's my collaging corner. Or is it going to be, am I going to get, you know, empty out a Tupperware and I'm going to put all my supplies in there and put it under the bed, and every night I bring that out and then I pack it back up? Like, get very specific about where are you going to do this goal. Is it at the kitchen table? Is it in your bedroom? Is there like a pack up and like, you know, setup thing related to it? Think about those logistics, because the more that you kind of like mentally rehearse this act before you actually do it, the more likely you are to really step forward and say like, oh wow, okay, this feels like an easy entry point. And acknowledge that it might change, you know, and some days are going to be better than others. You know, some days you're going to be like, oh, I really didn't want to put this off until nighttime, but here we are, you know. But think about, for most days, how would this go well for you? Let me know in the comments if you have any thoughts about when and where you will do your creative practice or project. So that's what I really want you to think through today. And for your homework, there's going to be another thread in our Facebook group for the homework for day 2. And congratulations for everyone for doing the homework for day 1. And hopefully Jenny has our winner. Oh, she does. Okay, great. So I'm going to announce the winner for the day 1 homework in a minute, but I'll tell you about the day 2 homework for today. There's going to be a separate thread for day 2 homework, and you're going to post, what limiting belief did you uncover, and what type of person do you think you need to find in order to prove that limiting belief wrong? So you don't have to find the person. Bonus points if you do. You don't have to find them. Just like, who are you looking for? That's what I want you to post in the homework, because that is really the most important piece to this, is all this mindset work. And it's so funny because sometimes we think like, no, but it's the technical skills like I need to learn, or it's the class I need to take. And it's like, not really. That's not what's gonna like allow you to be consistent and move forward in your evolution as a creative person. It's all in your head. It's all in your head. Like, you all have the capability and the skill to start right now without learning anything. You can just start as you are, and it will just become what it's supposed to be. So really remember that, like, empower yourself with like, I am enough right now, and find those expanders that have your skill level right now, because that will further show you like, oh wow, like I really don't have to learn anything new. I could just start. I mean, kudos to you if you want to learn something new. And some of you do have a goal to like start a tutorial or a class, and I think that's awesome. Like, there is definitely merit to that. And sometimes there is a gap where you're like, no, I do want to learn this separate thing. So I'm not like poo-pooing that. I think that's awesome. And I am like definitely a tutorial person. Especially in motion design, there's like all this software that I'm constantly having to stay up to date with. So, but also just to like give you that like peace of mind that like you really are enough right now. So the homework for day 2, you're gonna win an art print, one of my art prints. So these prints behind me. So we're gonna pick a winner randomly for day 2 homework. So that's super fun day of the day's session. So yeah, I'm just so happy that you're all here and just doing this work. Like I've seen amazing breakthroughs already happen. I've seen people starting already. Like the homework for day one was amazing. You're all just really thinking through like, okay, yes, how can I lower the stakes with this to just get into it? And it's so exciting. Like I live for this. This when I realized like this is a thing and I realized it in myself, but also started to help others, I was like, I have responsibility to do this because think of how many people we could help, and if everyone were to really truly connect and return to their creative practice or project, how much happier would the world be? And like that's where the healing of this world starts, is just everyone just feeling life back in themselves again. It's just so important. So really like value this work. It's very easy to think of our personal creative practice as like extra or not a priority, especially when it's so small like this. Like, well, how am I going to really prioritize like making a doodle in the morning? But it is important, and really placing value on that and knowing that it's more than the doodle, it's more than the 15 minutes at the piano, it's more than that, it's so much deeper. It's this inner energy that we're tapping into that it's hard to explain, and people who aren't creative don't really get it, and that's why it's just like so nice just to be amongst other creatives. You probably are feeling this in the group. It's like, wow, when's the last time that I was around other people who wanted this for themselves? A lot of people don't have those people in their lives. And that's another reason why I want to do this work that I'm doing as a coach, because unless you went to art school, like you had that experience with other creatives, and unless you do it for your day job, like, yes, but not everyone at your day job wants to do a personal project. Like I remember when I was at an innovation consultancy as a motion designer, I was shocked at how many people like had no desire to do a personal creative project for themselves outside of work. I was like, really? And so that's something special. So really congratulate yourselves for being here and doing this work and returning to your creative self, because it's important work. So I hope this was helpful today. Let me know in the comments if you have any questions. Otherwise, we can wrap things up today. Today was just really all about identifying and unblocking your limiting beliefs. So I hope you take some time and do that Google search, like really pretend it's a news headline. And whatever those phrases are, like it could be a whole sentence, like think about like the SEO, like the search words that someone might use, or just those keywords like artist mother. I found that whole podcast. So whatever your limiting belief is, like ADHD writer, like think about what those two phrases would be that you would put together to find your person. And in Google, sometimes you can look in the news section, like they have it sectioned out by search. It's like all images, and then there's news. Sometimes you can go in there and find that's like a shortcut to finding articles about your thing. So I did that too. I remember when I was looking. So, and ask the universe for help if you're like, oh my gosh, I'm not finding anything. And you might have to go back deep into the archives of your search engine to find what you're looking for. But I promise you will find something. So yes, hopefully this was helpful. Elizabeth says very helpful, amazing. What if I think I've honed in on my person already? Amazing. Put that in the homework for day 2. I'll be posting that homework thread soon. So yeah, I want to know who it is and describe who they are for us. That's so exciting. And find those articles, and great if they have like podcasts or anything like that. If you can hear their voice, it's super helpful, because it really just like further heals that like subconscious part of your mind that's like, oh, I can't do it. But when you hear their voice, you're like, wait, I listened to them telling this story, like this is me. So really like try and do some research on a specific person if you find them, and like kind of obsess, like get a little stalkery, like how much can you find about them and really read about them, listen to them, see if they have any interviews, YouTubes, podcasts, anything like that. Because the more you can hear that story, that's why Ashley Longshore was great, because she has so many interviews, so many podcasts. I think I heard a podcast with her on The Jealous Curator. I forget what her podcast is called. It might be called The Jealous Curator, but she was just so funny, and just hearing her voice and her story, I just connected with it. And the same with Sari Shryack. I was like, this is me. This is me. Every word out of her mouth, it just felt like me talking. And then to hear how she overcame, and then to look at her work, I was like, oh my gosh, look at the future that's in store for me. All I have to do is do what she did, which was start drawing. And that's what I did. And here I am now, like doing my thing. It's just crazy what it becomes if you just let it. So that's what I'm excited to see you all do. So go ahead and do your homework. I'll be following up with you. Okay, everyone, thank you so much.